Hi, I'm Will Pye, and I'd like to talk to you about something that's very relevant for us all. It's the chapter in my book, Blessed with a Brain Tumour. Perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of reality. I'd like to talk to you about death. It's the third chapter in my book, The Gift of Death. Growing up, my culture gave me two options with death as to what it was. One was that it was the end, but also the beginning of either heaven or hell. And I seem to recall that there were various possible expressions of this heaven and hell, the fiery hell and the warm and light heaven. I remember a story about heaven being where people served each other rice, whereas hell, they just had these long chopsticks and didn't serve each other. And frankly, the whole expression of Christianity, I did not find one that had much intelligence or depth or any realization. It was all just tired old stories such as this. So I dismissed this idea of death as being a heaven or hell, depending upon some scorecard that a petty, wrathful, sort of angry old father character had kept. It was quite clearly absurd. So I leaned towards the other option, the other death, which was nothingness, the end of everything. And as a child, as a fairly young child, I recall spinning my mind with the impossible attempt to contemplate, to know nothingness. I would try and imagine what? Nothing? How can something imagine nothing? How can being conceive of non-being? It was quite a trip. And it was clear that this idea that death is the end, I intuited, sensed, felt, it was insufficient. And of course the idea that death is the end rests upon an assumption. We could say two assumptions: that we are a body, and that we are the thinking mind or the personality or the ego. Suffice to say, it doesn't take a great deal of inquiry, although in a culture that stubbornly insists upon such naive, cute superstitions as materialism and the notion that consciousness or mind can be reduced to the activity of the physical brain. You might need to inquire a bit just to overcome the conditioning and lunacy of naive and superstitious culture. proselytizing about materialism, that we are a body. Once you have seen through these absurdities, once it is clear that we are more than our body, once it has become clear also that we are something other than that which arises, the thinking, the feeling, the identity, indeed, once it becomes clear that we are that within which all such phenomena, including personal identity, arises, these assumptions are seen to be just that, assumptions, and thus the idea that when they end, when this body ends, and when the ego mind ends, there is nothing. There is death. This is also seen through. Now, I've explained that intellectually, conceptually. Yet, there is a realization, a knowing, which I can intellectually explain as well. I've learnt to speak scientifically. I am fluent in logic. Far more so than the Dawkins of this world. Clearly I have an ego to match his with such statements. So this realization, one sees that one is infinite and eternal. In the falling away of identification with me, this seeing, this awareness, this consciousness that I am is recognized to be what I truly am. And it's perfectly obvious that it has no end nor beginning. It's perfectly obvious that I do not die. It's perfectly obvious that death is a cute idea with no reality in reality. Yes, the body dies, yes, the ego dies, and yes, death is a considerable interruption to one's schedule, and yes, it's an event of sadness as we part with friends, but ultimately it doesn't exist. It's a change of form, nothing more, nothing less. You can investigate this scientifically and logically as well. You can look into the research of Stevenson with past life recall, what we might call past life recall. You can look into near-death experiences, Raymond Moody's work, the Dutch cardiologist Pim van Lommel's recent book, dealing very well and coherently with all the skeptical dismissal of the huge volume of data on near-death experiences, massively anomalistic for the superstitions around materialism and so on. You can read personal accounts if you'll allow the validity of subjective experience. Anita Moorjani's Dying to be Me, Eben Alexander's Proof of Heaven, rather provocatively titled book. And you can inquire, trust your own intuition, trust your own sense, and at least accept Socrates' wonderful quote is in my book. He just simply questions the wisdom in fearing something when we don't know what it is. So first, at least, let us be open regarding this large assumption, this death that we simply don't know what it is. And ultimately I would encourage us to get it out of the way, death, before the body dies. Die before you die. Die a little death every day. This is a Buddhist Sufi term. It's an essence of a great wisdom tradition, is to die to that which is unreal, such that when we do die, we do so with glee, with readiness, with peace. And the great advantage is when we do die to the identification with the body and with the ego mind, when we see beyond the idea that that thought stream in consciousness is what I am, we're reborn to this awareness. Beyond the fear of death, we're fearless, we're peace. We experience an imperturbable peace, a peace that passeth all understanding. To use Jesus' words, apparently. Who knows what Jesus said? He did apparently say that the kingdom of heaven is within you. All that nonsense that Christianity generally teaches has nothing to do with what Christ taught, which is that you are a son of God, you are a daughter of God, you are a child of God, and heaven is not some place that is experienced at bodily death, although it may well be that too. It is this reality, here now, to be experienced. It is what you are when you die to all these ideas of me. There is only life, eternal. It is you, it is me. There is nothing else. And in good time, if it be your path, your yearning, your desire, this will become clear in your own experience, in your own seeing. Death, wonderfully intriguing possibility, a wonderfully intriguing inevitability, and yet an unreality, a cute idea. Let us embrace our death, that we be reborn to what we already are, which is this peace, this joy, this seeing, this pure awareness, never born, never dies. Thank you so much for listening to what I had to say. I'd like to share a website, willpie.com has some bit more information and blog or two and some of the services that I offer. If you want to do some coaching work, mentoring work, I have availability. And if you'd like my first book, then please help me crowdfund it. You see Indiegogo. Hopefully you can see. Indiegogo.com. Blessed with a Brain Tumor is the book title. I'd love to have your support. I'd love to give you a copy and for you to have your journey served by this book. Thank you so much for listening and connecting. Great love.